What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 91st episode of the Boundless Business Podcast. As always, you got the amazing Justine, Larissa, and the okay guy, Nico, here. So, team, how are we feeling today?
Feeling good.
Love it, love it. Well, it's a fun time of the year. So, we got some fun topics as well. So, Justine, what's going on?
Yeah, today we are talking about how to scale a landscaping slash artificial turf business and sort of some strategies that business owners can use to expand their business right now or sort of prep for expanding in the spring and summer of next year. So first I want to talk about who this is for, like what type of business owner is this for?
As we're talking about expansion and especially using the next few months, winter months and whatnot to really prep for expansion, it's honestly important to note that this is more for established landscapers in turf looking to expand to maybe additional locations or expand crews and to grow that way. So if you're not already established in the industry, this is probably not going to be as helpful for you. I mean, definitely it could be good to keep in your back pocket, but it just might not be something you're ready for at this point. And so when we say established, again, we mean people that have multiple crews already, have a business in operation, and are probably able to do at least let's say like 2 jobs a week, I would say is a reasonable amount for once you get to that point, you're possibly ready to start expanding beyond that.
Sweet. And then let's start with assessing a company's readiness for expansion. So what are some important things to keep in mind when assessing whether someone is ready or not to expand?
It really just depends on the type of entrepreneur, business owner that we're dealing with, right? I always like to ask people when I first meet them, is like, what's the goal? Like, is this something that you want to become the regional player in the space, or do you just want to run a couple crews and make X amount of dollars a year? There's no bad answer. It's like what makes sense for you right now. So like when I'm trying to figure out, who's ready for expansion, I like to just go candidly. Like, what's the goal? Is it time? Is it money? Do we want to keep this business and hand it off? Do we want to sell it? I know people who are 3 to 6 months into a new business with the goal of selling in 18 months. So they just want to focus on how do I grow as big as possible, hire as many people to fulfill the leads that, in this case, we're bringing as possible and grow like that. Versus we've talked to people who are okay with just getting growing at 5 to 10% a year, adding in one additional person maybe every every 6 months or so to help maintain new growth, but they're okay staying at the level that they are. So that's the biggest thing that I always ask is like, what do you want? Then after that, there's kind of like three-ish main components. There's the marketing, the sales, and the operations side. And in the operations side, there's so many different things. There's legal, finance, HR. There's so many different buckets in there. But those are the three biggest bottlenecks that we see. You don't have enough new business coming in from the marketing side. You don't have enough salespeople or estimators or closers that can take those leads and turn them into clients. And you don't have the operations, including the manpower, the billing, the finance, the payroll, all of that to actually grow. So usually in one of those three buckets, there's problems. So when I'm assessing someone to grow, I want to figure out where we can come in. So for us, on this marketing and a little bit on the sales side, we can come in and help if that's the bottleneck. They have too many people that are working with them. Versus, if you have good marketing sales, like you don't want a partner like us coming in to help with operations because that's not our core competency.
Yeah, so just to kind of summarize that, it does fall into those buckets and definitely depends are you financially ready? Do you have the right team in place or the infrastructure to be able to grow that team with your expansion? And do you have the sufficient demand? I mean, typically the demand you drive yourself from marketing efforts or you work with a company to help drive for you. But also keep in mind if you're in currently a really small area and maybe you want to stay in that area and you just want to add more crews and just do more work, that might be hard if you're in a small area where there's just simply not the demand. So keep those types of things in mind as far as where are you at currently does your current level of, let's say, like inbound leads, does that current level of inbound leads support where you're trying to expand to? And if not, you might want to fix that problem first. Start there by being able to get an idea of where you can generate more demand. If you want to expand to a different location, you're going to run into similar issues, but a different location is basically starting like kind of the whole business from scratch. You got to start from scratch in terms of staffing. A lot of the operations stuff, you don't necessarily have to start from scratch, but you will have to start from scratch-ish in terms of the marketing, lead generation, and staffing, which are two of the really biggest parts. So just keep those in mind in terms of those different types of expansion and at what point and what kind of constraints are on each one.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Like, how can these business owners create a growth strategy based on each of those different types of expansions and based on what they want to do with their business? Or any tips we can give them for generally creating a growth strategy. Maybe we don't have to go into each one, but
Yeah, it's hard because, like Larissa was mentioning, you might not have enough population to grow a. So, for instance, if you do artificial turf in a sea level city, which is not no diss to any cities with smaller populations, but let's say that there's less than 150,000 people in your general facility. That's where I would classify you as a sea level growth opportunity, because you're hitting a cap. There's only so many people and so many homeowners in that area, and if you're a smaller city and town and jurisdiction, can't even say that word, then there's probably not a lot of like new movement in. So if that's the case, maybe you should look at adding additional services on top of, let's say, your artificial turf installation, maybe lighting or something else that you can add, so that you can be more to more people in this very small niche. Again, in this case, the growth opportunity, you probably have a lot less competition, which means that you can focus a lot more on relationship building, referrals, community outreach. Like, those mechanisms might work really well for you. Now, let's say you're in a B level, which is 150 to about 500,000 in your region. There's a little bit more competition. So you, again, from what we've seen, huge competitive edge is speed to lead. So you might just need to focus on the sales side, like how fast do we reach out and book estimates, because your competition might not be doing it. They also might be using more outdated forms of marketing like radio or TV, where they can't really track leads. That's where social and digital marketing could really quickly set you apart. You can grow that way. Now, in A level territories, 500,000 upwards of 10 million, that's where it gets very challenging, because you have to do almost everything right. You have to market everywhere and be able to track it. You have to be the first to reach out to leads. You have to focus on great customer service and referrals. Like, those are musts. So those, you usually are doing all three things okay. It's just then stepping up. Are we asking for more referrals, Google reviews? Are we spending money on platforms that actually provide us an ROI? Like, are we doing that? And if so, how can we do it incrementally 1% better every single time? Because that's going to be competition. Because there's only so many routes to grow. So there's so many levers you can pull. And usually in A level competition, there's a lot more competition and competitors out there. So you have to master all three of those avenues.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of developing a growth strategy, you definitely need to keep all those things in mind, right? Nico mentioned three big ways that we can grow a business. One of them, offer more services. This could be right for basically any company, depending on where you're at. However, if you already offer a bunch of services, you may want to possibly not add more. Or maybe you offer a bunch of services, but they're not all very profitable, and so you don't want to offer the not profitable services. So I just keep that in mind if you want to go the services route in terms of adding more offerings, and maybe they can be seasonal or not. Just keep in mind before you offer those if they're even worth your time, because you can fill your crew's time with that. But a really simple example is like if you can fill your crew's time with a $200 job, cool. But wouldn't it be better to fill it with a $2,000 job? I mean, like if you have the same labor expense, if it costs you the same amount, let's say at an hourly rate, it may be more worthwhile to go for a larger job. So just keep that in mind. And if your strategy for growth is going to include adding additional services, just make sure those services are profitable and that you have them priced appropriately. And that can work for any market size, which is great. The next one would be if you want to expand to maybe a different region. Again, that's basically starting another business, not necessarily from scratch because you've already done it. You already have your templates. You already have maybe an office team who can help. You have administrative support. But again, keep in mind that's going to probably require decent capital investment to get that up and going. So if you don't have good financial reserves, I would hold off on expanding to a different region until you get to that point because it just will require a good amount of money to be able to fund opening up in that new location. And then if your other option is basically to be able to just get more jobs in and you want to grow your current existing location and grow that way, you definitely just need to keep in mind your staffing constraints and again, your marketing. Those are the two biggest things. So how many leads can you get in? Are you in a region that can support more leads? If so, what are you doing to get those more leads? How do you focus on really growing that? Once you have more leads growing in, then you can focus on growing your team to support the demand you've already created for yourself. Be careful about growing your team before you have that demand piece figured out, because then you're going to hire a bunch of people who are just sitting around because they have nothing to do. And not their fault. They didn't have any jobs to work. So got to make sure that you're growing those things strategically. It's much better to have a bunch of leads you can't fulfill on than to be able to fulfill a bunch of leads and you don't have any. So I would grow the marketing side first and then build up the business from there. It's just like rough strategy I would do for each of those kind of goals, I suppose.
This seems like a good opportunity to do a little self-plug of our own offerings. Is there anything we want to plug here about how we can help business owners grow their businesses, or if they're looking into expanding, how can we help them achieve that?
Yeah, so if you're a landscaper looking to get more leads and estimates booked on the calendar and fill that pipeline up, that's where we can come in. So we handle everything from sourcing leads, qualifying, booking them in, and do everything we can to fill up your pipeline. And we're really good at doing that. So if you need help, like that's where we come in. On the operations side, not so much. we can see what does well other places, but yeah, that's where we shine.
Yeah, marketing and sales for expansion is so important. So would definitely make sure you're really focused on attracting new customers while you expand, and working with a company like us is a great way to do that. We send estimates and leads your way. Sometimes we can help get them booked in if that's a service you want. And we can really help from kind of end to end on the sales side, which is awesome, and helping you grow your business that way. So, and also we have a bajillion tips and resources that you can access for free. Just feel free to go look back through any of our old podcasts, and we've learned so many lessons from expanding, not just from one territory to another, but also from adding additional services and from increasing lead volume in an area. So these are all things that we've done and we've helped multiple companies with. So if that's something that you're looking for help with as well,
Multiple. Wait, I gotta jump in here. We've now helped dozens and dozens of companies. So let's
Okay, you're right. You're right.
let's move
I
away
didn't mean
from
to
this.
undersell.
Wow. But yes, yeah, and even if you just need help and guidance, like reach out to us, Nico at getboundlessmedia.com. We're happy to help and serve. That's why we exist. We're here to make your life easier. So if we can help on the marketing side and even give you tips and tricks, that's what we're gonna do.
Sweet. Well, anything you want to leave our listeners off with before we close this episode off?
I guess I would just say if you're in a position to expand, that's awesome. And great job. That's my biggest, that's not easy. So any encouragement you can get, you should probably take along the way. And if we can provide any of that, happy to do so as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Continue to grow and scale, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.